Hey everybody, what's going on? This is my review for Aquaman. After watching Justice League, I got really excited to watch Aquaman. I said in my review that Aquaman was like my favorite thing, I think, coming out of that movie because I wanted to learn more about Aquaman and I wanted to see the movie. I heard it did great at the box office when it came out. It was received really well, so I know I'm really late on this review, but I was really late on the Justice League review. Something I really liked about this movie was it didn't feel as long as it was. I think it was like 2 hours and 20 minutes, 20 plus minutes. And when I first saw that, when I played the movie, I was like, oh god, this is gonna be like dragging on. But it didn't. The pacing was really great in my perspective. Like watching this, did not feel like it was almost 2.5 hours. If I was gonna rate this movie, there's a lot of things I liked about this movie, but I don't know if it deserves. I think I would rate this movie a solid 8 out of 10. 8.25 out of 10. Give it a little more, but not quite an 8.5. You know, the action in this movie was really entertaining. I don't feel like there was a wasted action scene. I don't feel like any of it was dull fighting. I never really felt bored watching this movie. You know, they're always doing something, going from here to there. There's the big tidal wave scene and towards the beginning of the film when Arthur is driving his dad home from the bar that they were drinking at, and I thought that was really like small action scene, but it was a really great action scene. I know it's just him swimming through the water, and then Mara's opens up like an air pocket for him so he can like stop and find his dad. But I thought that was like a really like good scene. I know we just get introduced to Mara in this and that kind of right before this, but I mean that kind of shows like her characteristics of who she is. She's very persistent. I never felt bored. I don't know if I said that already, but I never felt bored because I felt like there's a scene like that. They're on that high cliff, Arthur and Mara, and then they jump off the side and dive into the water and get into her boat and go wherever to Atlantis. But it's just really entertaining film, and I was about I think halfway through it. It was the part where they're in Sicily and they're fighting and Black Manta shows up. Mara's a badass. Like she can hold her own. She kicks some ass in this movie. And I felt like her chemistry with Arthur was really good from the get go. Like the scene where she creates that air pocket, and I just felt like from that moment, well, even since the beginning, like when she first shows up by his dad's truck, that there like there's gonna be something going on there, but it doesn't feel forced throughout the movie because they make a good duo. They have good chemistry, and then she's obviously like becomes like his love interest. They kiss towards the end. I know I'm jumping around, but she's a badass for sure, and she could hold her own. I really thought that Black Manta was, to me, he was kind of the secondary villain, because he's obviously at the end he gets set up for the next movie. I thought he did really good for his role. Like he's working for the actual bad guy, which is Arthur's brother, the King. Like he's your overarching villain for this movie, and then Black Manta's kind of like he's the secondary villain. But I thought he did really good as like his role in this movie. You see the creation of him, you kind of build him up, and then maybe in the second, I don't know, or third movie, whenever he comes back, it'll be a good kind of battle. I thought there was a lot of really funny moments in this movie as well, and it wasn't like forced comedic moments. They were sprinkled in there, and something that I really loved about Arthur's like his actual character of who he is as a person is that he's like he really cares about people. He's like a real humanitarian. He cares about helping those who needs like his help, and if we take that back to Justice League, he's helping that if it's a sea village, but like he's helping the village of people with whatever they need, and from that point, and then leading into this movie, he's just trying to help whoever. And I really like that about him. And this movie addresses, it's real on the nose, because they talk about global warming and human pollution, like in the sea, and it's on the nose, and I picked up on it, and it's a good way to subtly bring those ideas into a movie without directly having, maybe a newscaster on scene saying, breaking news, blah, 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 global warming. And I thought it was just a nice subtle thing because, those are real problems we face in the world, whether or not people want to believe in global warming, but especially human pollution in the sea, on land, in the air. Those are real things that we face as humans. I didn't see it. I kind of saw it coming, but I think it's because I might have just seen a video about it. But his reunion with his mother, I feel like that was a very sweet moment. It wasn't necessarily a break because she takes off her like gear that she's wearing when they get to like the Earth's core, and then he hugs her. They talk for a brief moment, but then it's like he jumps right back through that waterfall, and he has to go and get the trident. And I really liked it because it's a sweet moment. I feel like he holds a lot against his mom, but then he ends up finally being able to meet her. Throughout the movie, he's saying as he's like in his youth, when's he going to be able to meet her? But then she's like sacrificed to the trenches, and it's just a sweet overall moment for Arthur's character to meet her. And I really thought at one point that Willem Dafoe's character was gonna die. This has to do with in the very beginning. I wasn't sure whose side he was on. If he was on what's his name, King Orm's side or Arthur's side, because there's that scene where he's trying to get, or where King Orm is trying to recruit the other nations to join him, and I felt like at that moment Willem Dafoe's character was trying to play both sides, play the bad side and then play the good side. But until I started seeing more of the flashbacks throughout the movie of him training, Arthur, trying to get him, teach him the way of being, like, not the way of being of an Atlantean, but, swimming and all that, and fighting, combat. Then I realized, he is on Arthur's side. He's playing his double agent role because he has to. And I was like, that's going to get him killed or something's going to happen. And towards the end, he figures it out, like he's playing both sides, more on Arthur's side, but I thought he was going to die for sure. I didn't think he would make it through the movie. Something that I really liked about this, I don't want to call it an origin story. I mean, I guess that's kind of what it is, but even though we're kind of introduced to him, to me, it's like Black Panther-esque. It's, you have the introduction of, in this case, Aquaman in Justice League, and then you have his first solo movie after the team up movie. Kind of like what happened with Black Panther in Civil War, and then he had his own movie later. But it wasn't necessarily a full-on origin film to me, and I like those kind of movies. That really caught. I felt like that made the movie better. Yes, we have some flashbacks, but he's already Aquaman. He's not full-blown King of the Sea, which he achieves by the end of the movie, but it's also not showing him as a kid growing up. Like we get that all in flashbacks, so it's semi origin story, but it's not full on origin story, and I really like that because I feel like, especially nowadays, we take way too much time on origins, and I feel not that it wastes the movie, but I mean if it's a very well known character, then we don't really need those origin stories. Like when they redid Spider-Man, like this is the third rendition of Spider-Man. We know how he becomes his powers, what happens in his youth. Batman, how many times have we seen Batman? Just like in Dawn of Justice, they kind of skip through that. They do it in the opening credits, but we don't need the whole movie where it's like the last 45 minutes is him being Batman. Like this movie, he's Aquaman. He has his powers. He knows how to use his powers. He's on his quest the whole time. But I really like that all this happened after Justice League, and it's not a full on origin story, and it's his continuing adventure. And I like to see what happens maybe in Aquaman 2 or whatever he comes out in next. Maybe I don't think Justice League 2 is going to come out, but Aquaman 2 would be very interesting to watch once he's full blown King of the Sea now. with his trident. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. This is my review for Aquaman. I'll see you guys next time.